these bankers have suffered from, private equity's difficulties, meaning there's been less leveraged loans around. That's got to change because these of the checks that need to be written for these. It will also drive a bigger resuscitation in the securitization markets. They've been quite good in the US, but they've been moribund in Europe. So, overall, this should be a very, very positive thing for both banks and private credit.
Will there be some IPOs?
As long as it works. That should be the qualifier. As long as it works.
Exactly.
There is a chance these things are not going to work, and banks are kind of trying to protect themselves they're giving lower leverage for data centers that are AI focused, and they're charging more for them as well. So that's their attempt to protect themselves if AI doesn't come true in the way people hope.
Well, that's kind of where I wanted to go, Neil, because there's some folks saying, are we really going to get the return on investment, we being these companies that are making these big capital expenditures? And as equity investors, are we going to get the returns from all this spending? So there's a note of caution that's been kind of coming into the AI story a little bit. Are the banks thinking about that as well?
Yeah, 100%. It's something that's definitely on their minds. And one of the ways they protect themselves is those kind of higher returns that they're demanding from AI-focused data centers. Because the risk is if these things don't work out, you're left with an obsolete asset. So you definitely need some downside protection there. There's also been cases of some of these data centers that have been built and can't get connections. So there's already talk of what people are calling zombie data centers. And one of the ways investors can protect themselves against those risks is to actually do the plumbing instead. And we have some stuff about people advising that the utilities and the power providers may be a better way of playing this game rather than investing directly into data centers themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up too. It's not just the building of the data center, but especially when you have, say, the report from the information on NVIDIA saying that it's just really hot and it's too hot, and that's why sort of we may see some delays in chips, aka you need air conditioning, you need power, etc. Is there one company that's making a bigger bet on one area of AI versus the other?
I don't think so at this stage, but the difficulty, you could probably cite some of the power companies in Virginia, because Virginia is the kind of capital of data centers globally. The scale of power that's needed for these things is the equivalent, in the US, is the equivalent of 3 New York cities.
Wow.
So that is just huge amount of power. So utilities, particularly around Richmond, which is, as I say, the kind of capital of these things, they're probably the ones who are taking the biggest risk. But one way that people are looking to mitigate that is they're talking about building small nuclear reactors next to these power centers, next to these data centers, to provide the power for them. Because basically what we don't want to happen is for consumers to end up paying higher energy prices in order for people to be able to play on Instagram more than they normally would before.